In episode 131, we removed the landing gear, the nose gear, because I had to adjust this stack of pucks on the gear. And I adjusted the pucks and I put the nose gear back together, but there's always been something on my mind since the beginning of this airplane pretty much that's always kind of bothered me a little bit, and that is how tight those pucks were on that nose strut. One of the reasons they were so tight is because I powder coated that nose gear. And that powder coating is a fairly thick coating, and that just made those rubber pucks tighter. What was on my mind was that I'm wondering if those pucks were so tight that I'm basically eliminating the shock absorber from the nose gear. You know, it's almost like maybe it would almost be like not having any shock absorber on the nose gear. It would be so stiff. And it always kind of bothered me a little bit because I didn't really know if it would be too stiff. But what do you do about it? You either replace the nose gear or sandblast off the powder coating. And even with sandblasting, powder coating is really difficult to remove. So it was just something I always just kind of, I don't know, ignored. But it was, like I said, it was always kind of on the back of my mind. But since I had this all apart anyway, I decided to finally fix the issues that I was concerned about. Well, here is my gear leg. As you can see, the powder coating is removed. No, I did not sandblast it off. I actually went back to the powder coater and I asked them if there was a way that they can remove powder coating. And they said that they have a chemical that removes powder coating, but it's super expensive and it's usually just done in little containers like that big. So to put this big gear leg in it, they couldn't do it. But there's a place down in Romulus, which is down by Detroit, that's called International Paint Stripping. And they actually specialize in removing powder coating and other coatings. So I drove an hour, I took it down there. And what they do is they put it in an oven and they basically bake the powder coating off. And then after that, they put it into a chemical that kind of washes all the residue off. And as you can see, it's perfect. It completely removed it. So now here's the plan with the gear strut. So what I'm planning to do is this tape right here is the 290 millimeters that the plans indicate that you need for the pucks. I'm going to polish this so that it's smooth. Not polished like it's chrome or super shiny, but just polish it so it's not it's not really rough, but you know what I mean. I'm just gonna polish it. And then from here down, I'm going to just prime with epoxy primer and paint. Speaking of these plans, that's the 290 millimeter measurement right there. And we kind of went over this in episode 131. And I was saying that 290 isn't accurate because mine was only about 250. And one of my eagle-eyed viewers in the video counted the number of pucks I had on my gear leg, and I had 10 pucks, and the plans show 12. And, when I got the kit, I got 10 pucks and the 10 discs that go in between it, and I never thought to count them. I just put the pucks on that I was provided and moved forward. So thanks to my viewers, I realized that I was short 2 pucks. So I didn't know if Zenith maybe updated the kit or, I was just short 2 pucks. So I called and talked to Roger, and 12 is the correct number, 290 is the correct measurement, and Zenith has 2 more pucks and 2 more discs on the way to me now. So I'll have 12, which is the correct number for the Super Duty. Now I'm going to tell you something that drives me nuts about my cruiser. There is no way on this nose gear, as I have it, to attach a tow bar. So it's really hard to move this airplane around, especially to pull it backwards into the hangar. I pretty much have to grab it from the back of the airplane and pull it in. Now Zenith does make their own tow bar, and I have the tow bar. And you can see it spreads apart like this. And they have a little kit that you can buy, and I did buy it. And all it is a little steel tube that goes in the bottom of the gear, and you drill a hole through the gear, you put your tube in there, and then you drill a perpendicular hole that way, and then the bolt holds that tube in. And when you want to tow your airplane, you just spread this apart, you put it in the tube, and then you can move it around. Well, when I got that kit in that little tube, and I see my finished airplane, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to take my whole front end of my airplane off, take that nose gear off, and then with my little cheap Home Depot drill press, try to drill a hole exactly perpendicular through the gear leg, and then try to match another hole going the opposite direction, exactly through the center of the other one to put the bolt in. So I never installed it. And that's why my cruiser is so hard to move around. But I'd really like to be able to move the Super Duty around with a tow bar, especially because it is so heavy. It's a much bigger, heavier airplane. So I thought, well, I'll just take that little tube that I have that I bought for my cruiser and didn't use, and I'll have it welded in here. Instead of using the bolt, I'll just weld it in. And other people have done that. I spent about 3 hours tearing my complete hanger, my entire hanger apart, trying to find that stupid little tube. And I can't find it. So I'm gonna have to order it from Zenith again. But once I get that tube, I'll figure out how to drill a hole through here, and I'll take it somewhere and get it welded. But you know, before I paint this gear strut, that's the time to put this in now. Now, to get this gear leg ready to install, one of the first things I want to do is prime the inside of this tube. And I'm going to show you a little trick that I learned when I built my RV7. A lot of flight controls are aerodynamically balanced, which means they have a weight towards the front, usually in front of the hinge point. Just like on the Zenith Cruiser, these red counterweights are balancing these flaperons. And on the RV7 that I built, they had a steel tube that went on the inside of the aileron, right at the leading edge. So when the airplane is finished, you can't see it, but it's inside the aileron. And you have to prime the inside of that tube and the outside so that it doesn't rust. And that's a little trick that I'm going to do with this gear leg right now. Now, one of the first things I'm going to do here to get it ready is tape off this little vent hole at the bottom of the gear leg. And I'm just going to use a little piece of black electrical tape. And I use electrical tape because electrical tape will bend and conform to all these compound curves down here. So that'll kind of seal off the bottom, and it's ready to go. I'm using my SPI epoxy primer. This is the same primer I prime the entire airplane with. It's a 2-part epoxy, obviously, primer. It gets mixed 50-50 with the activator. And then when I'm spraying the airplane, I thin it out 25% after I mix it. We'll just give it a little stir here. I'm going to show you guys a trick that's going to blow your mind, because it blew my mind the first time I ever saw this. You guys might know how much of a hassle it is pouring paint out of a gallon can, because it goes everywhere. It fills the entire lip with paint. What we do is we're going to use a little bit of duct tape, and I'll show you this closer up once I get it on here. But we're just going to create a little V at the front here where we're going to pour it. This little V in the tape makes a really nice pouring spout. So it'll pour out nice. You won't get paint all along the side of your can here. And I noticed, I don't know what the difference is, but sometimes it works really well, and sometimes it doesn't work quite as well. I think it works better when the can is new because the tape sticks to the lip a little bit better. And I've done this so many times now that this lip is full of paint, so the tape doesn't stick quite as well, but let's give it a shot. There we go. Then we pull the tape off, and we don't have a huge mess everywhere. It just works better than pouring it straight out of the can. Now, I think what I'm going to do for this gear leg is I'm going to try this without thinning it at all, because I'm not spraying it. And I think having a little bit thicker is going to work better for what we're going to do. All right, here's what we're going to do. Let me get rid of this. And I've got this gear leg sitting in this little foil pan just in case my tape leaks a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pour this paint or primer in here. And now I'm gonna just roll her around and try to coat the whole inside as I pour it out and make a mess. It's kind of a waste of primer because almost all of this is just gonna be wasted, but it's what you gotta do to prime the inside of this tube. And I'll probably pour it in and out just a few times just to make sure it's all covered in there. I got my little flashlight here. I can see how we're, oh, that's looking pretty good. That's completely covered. All right, I probably don't even need to do it again. It's completely covered in there. And as long as you roll it around like this, it just coats the whole inside. Because you really do want the inside of this primed or protected from rust. It's no different than the outside. It will rust if it's not protected. So I think this is probably a good way to do it. This is exactly what I did with my counterweights for the RV7. All right, there we go. Didn't even leak out of the bottom. Probably won't be able to tell, but I actually did the same thing inside this tube. I poured the paint in there and let it swish around. So the inside of this little cross tube is now primed also. So hopefully that'll prevent any rust from forming in there. Well, other than polishing the top of this gear leg, there's nothing I can do on it until I get this little tube from Zenith. After I get that tube, obviously I'll have it welded in, prime and paint the rest of the gear, and then I can install the pucks, and then install the gear on the airplane, and hopefully I never have to remove it again, and it'll be ready to go. If you guys like these videos, please hit that thumbs up button. It really does help the algorithm somehow, and it promotes the channel. Subscribe if you want to watch the building of this airplane, and then some boring cruiser flying videos. I'd appreciate if you hit the subscribe button too. I'm going to try to grow this channel in 2024. It's really fun for me to make these videos. I just enjoy computer work, so I like the editing process. I really can't wait until this airplane is done because I really want to make like Super Duty camping videos. That's really what I'm striving for here. So hopefully 2024 is the year that this airplane flies. Follow along, guys. Thanks for watching, and I have to get ready for work.